Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. I'm here to share my image annotations for Alchemised book. This will be for part 1 and I will be sharing part 2 and part 3 separately. If you haven't read the book or at least part 1, save this video and come back later because this video will contain spoilers. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so these are the first images I have. Some people say that the image on the left is during the war and the image on the right is after the war. Next image is on part 1. I thought this image is quite suited because Helena looks like she's a captive. Following image is on page 27 and it just talks about the shackles for the first time in part 1. Page 52 I have an image of Theron's house and then I also have this nice overlay. And then on page 52, going to page 53, it talks about Aurelia, so I have a picture of her. Page 54, this is the first time Helena and Cain meet for the first time in part 1. And then I also have this overlay with Helena wearing the scruffy dress and the shackles. Page 64 is when Helena is trying to leave her room, but she's consumed by the darkness because it reminds her of the stasis tank. And then on page 65, I have a picture of Helena in red dress. Page 86, I have a picture of Helena staring into the mirror. On one side, she's wearing her healer's uniform, and then on the other, she's wearing the red dress. Page 89 is a picture of Cain holding the newspaper and Helena walking away because he just told her that she hadn't been out long enough and she needs to keep walking. The actual scene with the newspaper is on page 87. Page 90 is Helena trying to get hypothermia. Page 100 is an image of Helena surrounded by the darkness. This is the scene where Helena was trying to go back to her room on her own for the first time. Page 103 or chapter 7 is an image of Cain showing Helena around the house. Page 115 is an image of Helena and Luke. Page 130 is the first transference Cain did on Helena. On page 131 I have this scene where Helena asks if she knows Cain and he says, I suppose you do. And then I also have this overlay of Cain carrying Helena back into the house after she wandered out into the courtyard. Page 138 is another image of the shackles. It just describes it a little bit more. Page 143 is the scene where Cain kissed Aurelia but his eyes were locked onto Helena's face. Page 161 is an image of Amaris and it just describes it over here. Page 169, it talks about the maze behind the house. I have an image of that. Page 181 is the scene where Helena gets her hands on the knife. I have this overlay and I also have this image. I think the image is a bit more accurate because it talks about the knife being overhead. Page 188 describes Morrow. I have a picture of him as well as this overlay. Page 213 is the scene where Lancaster was almost successful in kidnapping Helena but Cain interfered. Page 224 is the scene where Aurelia popped Helena's eye out and then Cain is just there trying to heal it. Page 235, I have an image of Cain and Helena, but this is the scene where Cain is trying to decide who should impregnate Helena, if it should be him or a stranger. Page 257 is the scene where Helena came into Cain's room because she thought that he's dead because the necrothals weren't moving. Page 258 or chapter 20 is Cain's and Helena's first kiss in part 1. Page 268 is the scene where Helena was told that she's pregnant. Page 271, I have a picture of Cain and Helena holding her book and it's just the scene where she doesn't want to leave it because she thinks that someone will steal it. Page 278 is the scene where Helena is starting to remember her past. Okay, so this is the end of part 1. I will be updating my book as and when the images come out and I will be sharing that on my Instagram page. So if you would like to see that, follow me along there. If you would like to add images to your book, I have created a Pinterest board with all of the images I used and I have linked my account in the description below. Let me know if you have any questions and I hope to see you in part 2. Bye!